Hi, this is Jerome. Hello again. Let me take you through the build process of this Airwolf XC hardtail. I kept seeing these ads for a $283 hardtail frame from a company in China called Airwolf. I mean, how could it be? I did the build. I actually think it's fantastic. I'm really happy with the way this project came out. I'm really happy with the bike frame. So let me take you through the process and show you what I did.
This is my fifth custom build in the last 2.5 years. Each build entailed buying an unpainted, inexpensive, off-brand carbon fiber frame from China, doing the custom paint job myself, and then building it with all the standard mountain bike components. In some instances, those components were name brand, and in other instances, they were non-name branded items. This build is no different. In my previous videos, the focus was more on the how-to of the build process, primarily the painting aspects. This video is a little different. Other than a brief segment on making and using Waterslide decals, the primary focus will be on the components I selected, including the sources and cost, and finally, would I do it again on a subsequent build.
I'm going to apply this Waterslide decal on the front head tube. First thing I'm going to do is clean off the area with isopropyl alcohol.
I started off with an image I found on the internet and did a little bit of Photoshop work and printed it onto Hayes clear Waterslide decal paper that I purchased on Amazon for about $20 for 20 sheets. I printed it using a color laser printer that I have at work. After printing, you hit it with clear acrylic, which seals the paint in, the ink in, and gives the decal some rigidity. You place it in water, you let the back separate from the sheeting, and then you lay it on like you can see in the video. So let's take a tour of the bike. I'll show you the components I installed, and afterwards I will let you know where I picked them up, what I paid for them, and give you my impressions of those items. I went with Meroca M4 brakes. These are 4-piston brakes. They are set up for Europe, where the left grip is the rear brake and the right grip is the front brake. So the hoses needed to be reversed. I had to take the hoses off the handset anyway to snake the hose through the frame, so there was a little bit of work to be done in the installation process just because of that. I went with SRAM center lock rotors, which were twice as expensive as the little 6-bolt rotors, and I bought these because I made a mistake when I ordered the carbon fiber wheels. I ordered them to require center lock discs, so here you go. I went with a 110mm boost fork from Balony, I guess is the way you pronounce it. It's an inexpensive fork. I think it costs like $135, and you know what? It's very well suited for the kind of XC riding that I have here in Central Florida. And I really like the lockout mechanism. It's very reliable and easy on your thumb to operate. I went with the Shimano 12-speed M6100 derailleur and shifter, and you know, it's inexpensive and it works really well. And a Shimano M8100 12-speed cassette. I went with a KS 125mm travel dropper post. I really like the actuation button on these KS posts. They're simple and reliable, easy to get your finger on. Like the way they work. This budget saddle, I really like the short length of this saddle, and I will buy another short length saddle in the future, but this one is really hard. The cushion is not particularly soft at all, so it's a little bit tough on your butt. I went with the Sigeyi Power Meter. I have a power meter on one of my other bikes. I really like having a power meter. I do a lot of trainer road rides where, you know, I'm supposed to stay within a certain wattage for certain months of time, and it's all part of a training regimen that I do. So I really enjoy having a power meter on an XC bike. And then I bought a bunch of other doodads: headset, handlebar grips, a hose kit, because I had to, you know, run the hose through the frame and felt like I needed a little bit greater length. And the handlebars, carbon fiber handlebars, super lightweight, seem really strong, inexpensive. I like them a lot. A fairly budget chain, which seems to do the work, seems to do the job just fine, and of course the snazzy frame, which caused me to make this purchase in the first place. It seemed too good to be true at $230, and as it turns out, it's a pretty damn good frame. I really like it. So that's a summary of all the stuff I bought. Let me show you a spreadsheet so you can see how it all played out, and then I'll show you a graphic of the geo of this frame for people that care about geo. So building a bike from scratch is not cheap. I spent $22.50, so rounded up to $2,300 on this bike. I could have spent probably closer to $1,300-$1,400 if I didn't buy such fancy wheels, and obviously if I didn't buy a power meter, that cranked the price up quite a bit. Those two items alone were $1,000 plus. So here's the list of the things I purchased. So I did go with a budget fork. There's no rear suspension, so that's $0. I went with middle of the road drivetrain, fairly inexpensive tires. And it's $2,300, but like I said, I could have spent around $1,300-$1,400. So building a bike from scratch is not cheap. Did I save money versus buying a name brand bike from Canyon or Trek? I imagine I did. Did I make some compromises in some of the components? Sure. But let me say this. I think the most important thing in buying a bike is you buy a bike to suit a particular purpose. And in Florida, it's sandy, it's very twisty, it's low speed XC riding, and I don't need a fancy front suspension. I don't need a lot of fancy things. So, for the kind of riding that I do, this bike actually is absolutely perfect, and I would highly recommend it. So that's it on what I spent and the components within the bike. Let me give you a look at the geo now. I thought it would be useful to compare the Airwolf against the Canyon Exceed and Specialized Hardtail. Seat height and seat tube length, they're about the same. It really doesn't matter either, in my opinion. Top tube length also makes a little difference. Head tube length and head tube angle, very similar in numbers. Seat tube angle, here's a difference here that may be important to someone. Chainstay length, there's a difference in the magnitude of the numbers, but I'm not so sure that that matters either. Stack height, I think, is a measure that is always talked about in bikes, and it's practically meaningless. Reach and standover height. Reach matters, and I actually found the bike when I first rode it to be a little bit compressed for me. It seemed like I didn't have quite enough space between the seat and the handlebars, and at that time I was running with a 70mm stem. I since changed that to a 90mm stem, and the 20mm made all the difference in the world. So still comparable numbers running at 90 for the typical range of an XC bike. And bottom bracket height, the Airwolf is a little bit higher. For an XC bike, I'm not so sure that makes that much difference. It's not like it's critical to get a low center of gravity. At least for the kind of trails I ride, it doesn't matter at all. So hopefully these geo numbers you find useful. I think numbers by themselves are not particularly helpful, but when you have them in a fashion where you can compare it against other bikes, it becomes a little bit more meaningful in helping you choose what's good for you. Alright, so this is the end of the video. I hope you found this informative and helpful, and we'll catch you on the next build. Bye now.